Yeah, so basically, this is the entrance to Lytton Frith Farm that we actually own from Trinity House at the top.
Okay.
And then all of this woods down to the point. So that road at Ravensdale that you just walked up, that's the boundary.
It's a beautiful area, isn't it?
Yeah. And so we own everything pretty much from the skyline down to the Ravensdale here. And it kind of goes on for about half a mile in that direction, maybe more than half a mile.
Yeah.
So it's basically the whole of Lytton Frith, which Frith means forest.
Right.
And Lytton is the next village over there, so there's footpaths which go to Lytton through here. Yeah, so it's really beautiful.
It is absolutely stunning.
It's pristine.
A nice day for it. I thought we might be walking in the rain.
Yeah, no, it's a really good day. And there's no noise pollution. You can hear can't hear any roads. Occasional plane goes over. And no light pollution. So it's kind of as pretty much pristine nature as you can get, really. So we feel very blessed to have manifested it.
Yeah.
Kobe, come on.
What's his name?
Kobe with a K.
Kobe with a K.
After Kobe Bryant, the basketball player. Yeah, so this is Kobe land. So it's his territory.
He loves it.
Yeah, he does. So, what's the kind of angle on your story, or haven't you decided yet?
Not really decided yet. I think, my editor saw it.
Where did he see it?
The coverage, just everywhere, on Twitter and stuff. I was just curious and thought, given it's August, I had a little bit more time. I normally do Westminster politics. I'm only based in Westminster.
Okay.
But it's obviously it's in recess.
Yes.
So I normally try and do features, interviews, that sort of thing when Parliament's not sitting.
Okay.
Which I much more enjoy, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, would it help for me to just tell you a bit about the Love Party and
Go
that
ahead.
saga?
Do the whole thing. It'd be great to hear it from the start, really. Like what brought you here, how you got here, everything.
Yeah, well, I guess this part of the story started in September 2020 when I was so outraged at Boris Johnson's rule of 6, because I've got 5 sons,
right, which
meant under their rules, the COVID thing, we couldn't have girlfriends coming to the house because we were already 6, And I was just so outraged at what was going on, and I could also see what was happening to small businesses. Obviously, being a dragon and a mentor, I work with a lot of small independent businesses, and I am a champion for enterprise.
Yeah.
So I could see the damage that all of this nonsense, and I do believe it was nonsense, particularly retrospectively. I think it was a giant con. I could see the damage being done. And I was so outraged at this announcement that I just went out and did a kind of 27-minute video rant called Rachel Speaks Out, which went viral. And after about 250,000 views, there's our well there. That just needs that lid. I'll do that on the way back.
Where's
that
the
lid's.
Well?
So basically, this is the Ravensdale Springs, and that is a well that originally fed the whole village.
Oh, really?
But the lid is broken, and so that's why we've got a black plastic thing.
Right.
For someone's taken it off, so I need to put it back.
Does it still work?
Yeah. So the waters come through the limestone.
Yeah.
It's natural springs, and they gather in the well, and the excess flows down. So we built a little course there with a little pool. And there's a tap at the bottom, which is a sort of ancient, Victorian cast iron tap. Because the Ravensdale cottages where you went, they were built at the foot of the springs, because obviously near water in those days. Yeah. And all of the villagers used to come down here for their water. So this is why it's such an incredible piece of land, because it's so well resourced. It's got natural water, huge amounts of natural wood. I mean, it's all protected woodland, but there's loads of fallen wood. And pasture land. So it's 53 acres, basically. Anyway, so back to the story.
Yeah.
So Rachel Speaks Out went viral on YouTube and Facebook, and then was banned by both platforms. And I'm just like, wow, that is... So I was just literally speaking my truth as a mother, really. And I'm just like, oh my God, why have I been banned? So I kind of made it my mission to start really researching into everything. And a lot of the politicians at that time were talking about Build Back Better and the Great Reset. So I got hold of the book. Oh, just leave it, it's fine. I got hold of the book by Klaus Schwab, The Great Reset.
Yeah.
And I read it, and I kind of, because I'd been in the corporate world, I could see that it was that's interesting.
What have we got here?
Yeah, this is where the caravan and Steve's van was,
Right.
and he's since vacated.
Do you mind if I take a photo?
Well,
Just
it's
to describe it.
The thing is, it's, you know, you're gonna say, oh, what a mess they've left, kind of thing, and we're aware of this, and we need to tidy it up.
Okay.
So
So what was this? The caravan was here. And
yeah,
then
there was a caravan there, and a lot of this wood was from fallen trees which were over the winter. So we started a log store.
right.
So anyway, yeah, we're coming up tomorrow. We'll sort that out tomorrow.
Yeah. So you.
Anyway, back to the story.
Great Reset.
So I read the Great Reset, and because I had a lot of experience in the corporate world of business
Yeah.
plans, I could see that the Great Reset was actually a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. And it didn't contain a strategic plan. So I knew that there must be a strategic plan in a second book, but not a plan that we were allowed to see.
Right.
So because I had that corporate background, I was kind of able to piece together, and also I've done a lot of work with ayahuasca and, plant medicine, so I'm quite intuitive.
Okay.
And I can kind of see through. So I was sort of able to piece together what was truly going on, and the penny kind of dropped.
Yeah.
Because obviously what had happened, I could see what had happened was that the World Economic Forum, I don't know how much you know about this, Freddie,
Yeah.
how much you've researched into it all.
Probably not as much as you have, to be honest. But I'm obviously aware of it, but I wouldn't say I'm an expert at all.
Yeah, so basically the World Economic Forum,
Yeah.
totally unelected body. If you look at their, one of the things that I researched is who are their strategic partners, and
Yeah.
you read down the list: Pfizer, Bill Gates Foundation, Thomson Reuters, Facebook, Meta, Facebook, Google.
Yeah.
So you could see that all of the main players who were implementing all of these rules and regulations, and also all the big pharma supplying all of the injections, they were all strategic partners. So what does that tell you from a business point of view? That this whole thing had been cooked up. And they'd also, through the Young Leaders Programme, the World Economic Forum had placed leaders in all of the key governments, so Trudeau,
Yeah.
Jacinda Ardern.
Did Blair do it for a bit?
I'm not sure.
Or he was a trustee or something. I think.
It's he's definitely an ambassador for World Economic Forum. Prince Charles then was definitely part of that whole Davos movement. Macron in France. So you could really see how they had got these key leaders in key governments, and I'm pretty sure Boris Johnson was bankrolled at some level. Certainly on some level. He, firstly with Brexit, and Dominic Cummings definitely. He did a talk, a marketing talk about that.
Can I be really cheeky and possibly ask if you hold my phone as well? Just with you walking in front of me.
Oh, okay.
Just like if you pop it on top, it might.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that
Fine.
work?
I'll just I'll do. So we'll get the same thing.
Maybe put it underneath, just with you. I'm just.
Yeah. No. It's fine. It's fine.
Is that all right?
Yeah. So there was Dominic Cummings did a a marketing talk about how they won Brexit,
Okay.
which I watched. I don't know if you saw it. And he basically said that he was sitting, I'm paraphrasing, he said something like, I was sitting in the garden drinking a glass of wine, and suddenly the phone rang and someone said, there's a chance we're coming out of Europe. Would you like to head the team?
Yeah.
And it was from a billionaire, a Tory backer, basically.
Yeah.
And would you like to head the team that wins, that gets us out of the European Union? And so it was Dominic Cummings who masterminded it. And of course, he was heavily involved in the whole COVID thing. And, people were sending me stuff like SAGE reports and behavioural psychology, and the penny dropped, just the levels of PSYOP and behavioural psychology being deployed to influence the people at that time. And my friend was in Peru, and they were absolutely stringent on everything, masks, lockdowns, police with guns, like if you didn't wear a mask you were shot. It was that kind of level of intimidation. And I kind of realised that what they had done to these third world countries is that they had offered them, the World Economic Forum had basically ostensibly put it together as a package, like we will give you, 200 million in-stage payments, provided you implement this plan. Here's the boilerplate legislation.
Right.
Here's everything we require you to do.
And what's the plan?
And we will give you the money to basically implement the Great Reset.
Right.
So firstly, lockdown. Second phase, jabs to the max. And ultimately this plan will ultimately, this is my perception, Freddie, where it's headed, is it is headed towards total digital control through digital ID, potentially linked to a universal basic income, because the cost of living crisis, I think, has been manufactured because the big corporates, that 1%, own all the resources. They can hike the price of everything. They're just draining all of the money out of the people into the big corporate to implement this plan. And so the solution is going to be, it's a problem, reaction, solution. Oh, you're all so desperate for money. I know, let's give you all a universal basic income to make your lives better and to help everyone out. But there'd just be a few conditions attached. You have to have digital ID. You have to be up to date with your jabs. You have to comply with our rules and regulations. If you speak out, you lose your entitlement, blah, blah, blah. And you can see what's happening. It's coming at us very, very strongly.
Yeah.
And so having done the Rachel Speaks Out and being part of the freedom movement and having researched it and moved in those circles, and there's a lot of people who are totally aware of this now. So the natural thing for the freedom movement was to coalesce into groups, into community groups, to start unplugging. Firstly, unplugging from the whole digital world.
Right.
Forming into communities, local communities, hence why so many groups came together and bought land, for example, like this one. And I then I answered a clarion call to join the Freedom Alliance, which was one of the freedom movement political parties, and joined that last year, and very quickly realised that there was some serious kind of challenges within that party.
Right.
People who were speaking out were being thrown out, basically. When I challenged it, I was basically ostracised. And so...
What was your challenge?
Well, I was just questioning, like, why all these people being thrown out of the party for speaking out? I mean, surely we're about freedom of speech. So how can you have a party which is not living... Which is...
What were the people being thrown out for?
Speaking out, questioning the executive. Questioning the executive team, basically.
Right.
So, I mean, I was quite new to it, so I was just like, hold on a minute, this doesn't seem right, because I'd also got some emails from other people who'd been thrown out earlier, who said, beware, Anyway, to cut a long story short, we decided to, one of the women who was thrown out, Dr. Lynn Irving, who's an amazing woman, very, very, she's a mother, but she's a PhD and very totally awake and aware.
What's her PhD in?
Science, actually. she's got a very scientific mind, so
Yeah.
she questions everything with a very scientific rationale.
Right.
And she's also very, very clued in on politics and everything, and basically human rights, the people's rights. So we just decided, look, and also the Freedom Alliance, we really felt it wasn't heart-centred enough. So we just said we want to create something that is much more heart-centred and consciously aware. And so we created the Love Party in January. And then were forced to jump through numerous hoops with the Electoral Commission. And it got to the point where we were rejected. I think it was our 4th iteration of our constitution, where just on technicalities they just kept rejecting us. And it was
Beautiful.
Sweet, yeah. You'd think they wouldn't be here because it's a bit far from the water down here, but anyway, so we just were finding this exhausting, and actually we also then did the local council elections really just to sort of practice campaigning, because it's like in marketing, it's like in business. You can do all the theory you want, but until you actually sample a product and you put it out to people and you have a bit of a focus group, you won't know. So we stood the local council elections, and one of the things that really came home to me through being in politics, because I'm not a politician, but I do sense we need dramatic change. One of the things that I could see was the level of disaffection with politics, the levels of people. I mean, some of the by-elections the Freedom Alliance were fighting, like the turnout was, or the people who didn't turn out was like 72% in one of the last December. I think it was the the Manchester by-election, one of the regions of Manchester. 72% of the electorate didn't turn out to vote. So you've got a situation with British democracy where if you've only got 28% of the people voting, and then you probably only need, if you're, I don't know, Labour or Tory, you probably only need 30% to win.
Yeah.
You can actually win a seat in Parliament on like 15% of the people.
Out of all those people that aren't voting.
It's just insane.
Yeah.
And so it's like leaving a whole open goal. And so we realised that with the disaffection in politics, if we could actually go for the disenchanted voters and say, vote for an independent who truly stands for the people and is not standing on the ticket of a World Economic Forum, Davos-backed, global corporate hostile takeover bid, basically, and let's restore the power to the people, and let's create a People's Charter of Rights, so not even create, but to reinstate a Charter of People's Rights, because, of course, the British Constitution is unwritten, unlike the American one. So what if we actually wrote it down and said, OK, these are people's inalienable rights, and truly return politics to what it's supposed to be, which is a person representing that community on every issue, doing what's right for the people of that community, and not basically getting voted in and then just bulldozing through a plan which the people have no say in. I mean, if you look at what the Conservatives have done, was any of what they have bulldozed through in their manifesto? And, COVID happened. No, COVID was created to, COVID was created on the back of bulldozing through all of this insanity. So
where do you think COVID came from? Was it a Davos creation? Or did they just react to COVID, and COVID does exist? Well,
personally, if you look at I did a lot of analysis. My background is accountancy and taxation accountancy, and I spent 7 years. So I'm very good with numbers. So I did a lot of analysis of the government statistics. And if you look at the death statistics for previous years, and then at 2020, 21, 22, you'll see that deaths from flu completely disappear.
Yeah.
It's flu rebranded.
Right.
And then added to that, put in there the NHS protocols of putting people on ventilators. I mean, ask anyone in the NHS, the chances of surviving being put on a ventilator is minimal. And then look at the spike. What happened with the spike that justified everything? That was, and the average age of the people dying was 84 or something crazy. it all happened when they threw all of the old people out of the hospitals back into the care homes. And basically there was a huge midazolam, morphine implementation protocol implemented by Matt Hancock's instructions.
Okay.
And that huge spike, that's, if you look at it, that's all the old people who died, and that's what justified the whole of the COVID lockdown. Oh, look at this spike of deaths. Hold on, they're all 84 years old, and hold on, isn't it because maybe no one has any access to NHS and all of the old people have been thrown out of care, and there's nil by mouth instructions, and morphine and midazolam have taken everyone out? It's not difficult to piece it together.
No.
So, unfortunately, I hate to sound like a conspiracy theorist.
Do you see yourself as one?
Hi.
All right. Hello. Thanks.
Well, the thing is, all of these things that are conspiracy theories have actually turned out to be fact all the way along.
Yeah.
So if you look at what the conspiracy theorists said, this is leading to jabs. This is leading to, not being able to travel unless you've had a jab. It all came true.
Yeah.
So are they conspiracy theorists, or are they actually speaking the truth about what the master plan is?
So what do you think? Are you a conspiracy theorist?
I wouldn't say it's a theory. I'd say it's a conspiracy fact.
Right.
And conspiracy, in truth, what conspiracy is one or more people.
Works, isn't it? It's a thing.
Well,
right?
Conspiracy in common law is one or more people coming together to act to the detriment of another.
Yeah.
So basically, that is what a conspiracy is, and that's what's happened. You've got a small group of people who've come together, and they're acting to the detriment of the collective.
And this is WEF that have basically orchestrated
I would say,
the Great Reset, which is the response to the pandemic, and through both the jabs and the lockdowns, they're trying to...
This word pandemic, I mean, who declared it was a pandemic? Who labelled it a pandemic?
WHO.
And who funds the World Health Organization?
The UN.
Well, countries, but look at their funders.
Yeah.
Vaccine companies, Gavi, the vaccine foundations, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Yeah.
I mean, follow the money. With all of these things, look at all of the reports. Like people are, but there's this report in the the Lancet about this medical thing. So I would actually look and say, who owns that? Oh, it's owned by that group that's part of the World Economic Forum. Oh, okay, right. So that's what's happened. They've bought up, and I probably even knew Statesman. I don't know who owns you. The media. There are 5 columns to it, and one of them is media. And if you look, the World Economic Forum partners own or heavily influence all of the mainstream media now. So, so communication, the levels of psyop and propaganda are off the charts.
So you said, where is this going? What you mentioned
Let's walk around
the end
here.
game. What is the end game? And how long will it take? What can be done?
Well, the next phase of this is, of course, the whole climate change, which is being used as a policy to drive through absolute violations of personal freedoms, like 15-minute cities. And there's a massive pushback now, if you're aware, on the idea that the people are not allowed to travel on the roads that they own. Yeah. Because we have to put this back into the context of the people, because actually, in truth, who owns the roads? It's not the local authority. The people own the roads. The people, in truth, own this public footpath.
You've been doing some dry stone walling.
This is the border to our land, so it's pretty ancient, this dry stone walling.
It's pretty cool.
But that's, I think that's been repaired. But it's been here for,
So just going back
hundreds of years.
You mentioned at the start about how people who are worried about the Great Reset are trying to buy land to de-digitise, and also to... What else? What's the reason behind it? I think
a big impetus is because people don't trust money, and they believe that money is going to collapse. Right. So a lot of people are taking money out of banks and putting it into... A lot of people are putting it into cryptocurrency. Yeah. A lot of people are putting it into gold and silver, and a lot of people are putting it into land. Right. And if you look at even people like Bill Gates, he's buying up like thousands of acres of farmland, and a lot of the land here, anything that goes for auction, locally at the land in the Bakewell auctions,
Yeah.
a lot of it is going to Chinese buyers for like 2 or 3 times the reserve price. So there's a lot of money going into buying up assets.
Yeah.
Put it like that. So we had the opportunity. We were offered the opportunity. This land was not on the market.
No, yeah, it was what was it? A local landowner.
Yeah, Stanton Estate, and it was a very magical manifestation. So I kind of knew that we were destined to be here.
Right.
So we were offered the opportunity, and we came here, and it's just like, wow, it's so beautiful.
It is. Yeah,
so well resourced.
Given what you said about COVID and everything, how does Crestbrook relate to that? I mean, how do you envisage using the land?
Well, a big part of the healing is actually unplugging from digital everything and restoring our connection to nature. So even at its simplest, just you being here, and I'm sure if you live in Macclesfield, you're pretty close to nature anyway.
Yeah.
But just simply unplugging from phones. I mean, I've got 2 phones in my hands here, and I'm not saying that digital does not have a use, but when digital becomes our master, and we become the slave to it, that is when the challenge. So we need to remain the masters of digital. And I am an absolute advocate of moving out of digital everything and back to human connection, heart connection, nature connection. So even just being here, even just walking through here with you, I mean, it's just reconnecting to the heart, to nature.
It's magical.
So just literally that.
So you bought it with the Phoenix Rose group, is that right?
So basically there was we were trying to buy a farm which kind of fell through, and there was a small group of women who kept the flame alive, and we kept meeting and visioning, and so we're the kind of core group of women who manifested this land, and then we went out and we crowdfunded it, basically.
Right.
So one of us, because the previous place had been called Phalange Rising, our previous community, and we were all women, and there were 5 of us.
Yeah.
One of them said, "Oh, well, we're like a phoenix rising." So we said, "Well, let's call our new community Phoenix Rising."
Yeah.
And so one of them said, "Well, why don't we just call it Phoenix Rose? Because we're all women and there's 5 of us." And so it's just like, oh, that's a cute name. But then, of course, the local people, it's like, oh, there must be some kind of mystery school, like a coven of witches, the Phoenix Rose, a bit like, the Order of the Golden Dawn or some Aleister Crowley type insanity. So really, literally, it was just the name of the 5 women who manifested the opportunity. And then we went out to the wider community and said, we got this opportunity, who's interested in investing?
And how does that relate to the inner sanctum?
So basically, after Rachel Speaks Out went viral, loads of people were writing to me. So I decided to do a weekly call called The People Speak Out and invite anyone who wanted to come on and share their views about COVID and what was unfolding. Yeah. And I hosted this call, and it was called The People Speak Out. And lots of people on those calls were saying, oh, we really want to buy some land and community. And so I said, okay, I'll set up a little database called the Inner Sanctum, and people can sign up. And then out of that, we can create little groups and who will do their own thing. Yeah. Because some people were doing Scotland, there was a Welsh one, there was a Sussex one. And I said, I really want to do something in the Peak District. So the Inner Sanctum was a kind of collection database out of which spun all of these different projects. And my one that I was involved in was the Peak District, which is what has manifested here. So that's all the Inner Sanctum was. It was just a concept to create communities,
So, and then how's it gone? Because how's it gone basically trying to spend more time here? Because, I mean, is that the objective? To have, be able to set up a small community so you're always in nature, grow your own food, be self-sufficient? Yeah,
so, I mean, we come here, it's kind of recreational, really. I come here probably once every 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
And other people in our community, they come at the weekends, and then sometimes we have groups come in and we do dry stone walling and we do little projects. So we just, we came and did a well blessing, dressing. So we just come to do various little projects on the land, basically.
And is that because there were lots of tents, weren't there, and there's the teepee and everything, and that's been opposed by the council, I think. Has that basically changed your plans?
Well, the teepee is a movable structure. It's just a tent, really.
Right.
And
my question is, were there plans to make the community slightly more permanent here?
Well, the teepee was something which I bought when I was living out at Lathkildale, which is the sister dale to Crestbrook.
Right.
And so it made sense when we bought this land to bring it out of storage and put it up here, because that way, at least we had, when it was raining, we had somewhere inside just to go and sit. And so we've done some really sweet little things of just cacao ceremonies and singing and gatherings around the fire. It's got smoke flaps and a little fire dish, and so it's just a nice space. It's no big deal really. It's a tent.
Yeah. It's I saw it. Yeah,
it's a frickin' tent at the end of the day. We should have gone down and had a look at it. It's actually very sweet. I've just come back from the All About Love festival.
Yeah, what was that?
Where they've got, it's just it's like a little mini camping holiday, really, where they have loads of tents, yurts, and people singing and different sound stages. It's just a fun 4 nights, hanging out with people and dancing, and
that sounds great.
Yeah, so I like any festival, but obviously something like Glastonbury is a bit mainstream now and a bit big and unwieldy, whereas All About Love is a lot smaller. Yeah. And more directed towards spiritual people, I guess, than...
What's the cacao ceremony?
Oh, it's just hot chocolate, basically, raw cacao. So it's a kind of plant medicine in its true form. Obviously, Cadbury's have corrupted chocolate. So what you buy from Cadbury's is an abomination of the real thing. But if you go to South America, the cacao bean, if you grind it up, it's like a plant medicine, and it's very heart-opening. So raw cacao is basically hot chocolate, which is made from pure cocoa beans. A bit like when you get, Montezuma's chocolate. It's like 100%.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, except it's ceremonial, so it's kind of sacred. And so you drink a cup of it and you sing, basically, and it just is heart-opening, and it's just a really beautiful practice.
Do you guys do psychedelics at all?
Well, I have been to Peru, and I've worked with the shamans, so I have experienced ayahuasca, which is incredible. And I have to say, I do know for a fact that many, many people now are opening to medicine work, and I can see the influence of it everywhere, and including members of the royal family, politicians. Definitely, I would say Harry and Meghan have had it.
Right.
But it's, particularly in places like California, all of the creative people, you can see the influence of plant medicines throughout so many films. So it's incredible. It's incredibly healing and very visionary. Have you experienced it?
No, I haven't. Would you recommend it?
Yes, I definitely would.
What's it like?
Well, that's kind of impossible to explain, really. It's a bit like asking me what's an orgasm like. I could probably try and explain an orgasm, but you'd have to have one for yourself, and you go, I get it now. Yeah. This dries up normally in the summer, but we've had so much rain.
I know.
This is the Crestbrook.
Oh, this is it?
Yeah.
I was struck in the Love Party manifesto about how many references there were to basically returning to an age before technology took over the world, and there was references to how much holiday the peasants got in the medieval era. There was a lot of looking backwards to what time was like in the past.
Well, That's Lynn wrote that, and she. It's not really our manifesto. It's more like a discussion document,
Right.
Because we don't really have a manifesto, and we've just decided to create a people's charter.
Right.
But just consider that the sort of trap that most of us are now in. Certainly, I was in it when I was in the corporate world, where you get your bar at home and. You get your mortgage, but now you've got to be in your nice, stable job to pay your mortgage every month.
Yeah.
And it's basically, and then remembering the boom of the credit card era, which of course was debt card, and the amount of debt that people got themselves into, which is what funded the consumer boom. So essentially, we've been caught in this sort of false matrix of debt slavery, debt bondage, and most people can't get out. And that's why a lot of people want to go into small business, and a lot of people who are wanting to start out in business and come to me for mentoring, for example, over the years, they just desperately want to break free from this corporate slavery system, and kind of, and that is one thing.
Return to an era when.
Well, this is one thing that being in business, running your own business, gives you. It gives you freedom, the freedom to create your life how you want, the freedom to get up and decide what you do that day, and to work with the flow of your energy. So it's much more natural, and that was the natural way. If you think about in times gone by, you would have less energy in winter than you would in summer.
Yeah.
So and the days are longer in summer. So whereas the corporate world, you're 9 till 5. Well, for most people, it's probably 8 till 6. I just remember working insane hours when I worked in accountancy, just to get my chargeable hours up. So you end up in this kind of corporate slavery trap. And I think a lot of people are wanting to unplug from that and unplug from digital slavery, where everything's online now, and people are longing for human connection.
Yeah.
Which is why it's much nicer to do this interview with you
I always try and do it
in
person.
nature.
Yeah.
Then we could have done it on Zoom,
Yeah,
but
it
you
doesn't
lose
work.
so much of
Completely. So going back to your business career, you obviously did Dragon's Den. It's almost like the epitome, or at least stereotype, of corporate life and entrepreneurialism.
Well, the way it was edited.
Well,
hold on. Wait. Hold on. Could you take the...
Of course. Do you want me to take both?
Yeah.
Right.
Hold on. Come on, you. Right, let's go over here. Come on.
We got him.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
is there a contradiction there, or, is that how you've gone from that to...
Yeah, but you see,
Incredible
this was the interesting thing about Dragon's Den, because 95% of what we filmed ended up on the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
So all of the helpful, supportive, kind, beautiful business wisdom completely cut in favour of just the bitchy comment because it was 6 p.m. and 80 degrees in the studio, and people were just dying to get home.
Yeah.
And thanks very much.
I don't mean so much that. I just mean...
But what I'm saying is, it was...
establishment, part of society, part of the media, part of the BBC, and now you're very sceptical about all those ideas.
Well, yes, because I've experienced it.
Right.
So because I've experienced it, I'm able to now, having experienced it, say, actually, yeah, the BBC is very manipulative. I mean, I've experienced it from Dragon's Den, the level of manipulation. And to be quite honest, that... Do you want me to hold the other one as well?
Yeah, sure.
In some ways, it's sort of... I mean, I'm grateful to Dragon's Den, don't get me wrong, because it opened a whole world for me.
Yeah.
However, it did create a template for so many people who thought that's how you do business.
Yeah.
And it's not true. It's not a true reflection of how you do business. Most business is supportive, kind, generous, helpful. It's not bastards, kind of like, I've got the money and you do what the fuck I tell you. So in many ways, Dragon's Den was a program. And And so I was kind of part of creating that program. So I sort of feel a bit of a duty to speak out and uninstall it, because it was hugely edited. I don't regret it, but I do recognise it was a double-edged sword, because it's brought me many blessings. But equally, it has allowed people to sort of pigeonhole me into this dragon archetype, which isn't me at all.
No.
So even like when the Daily Mail did their hatchet piece on me earlier in the year, they couldn't write about the me, the now me, the new me, you could say, or the real me, should we say. They had to put a picture of me dressed in black rubber on a Ducati from 20 years ago. You know, it's like, it's not true reporting, which is why I said to you, you know, are you going to do a piece which is fair and full of truth, or are you just going to do a hit piece writing to an agenda just to sell newspapers?
Yeah.
Because that's what journalism has become. And, you know, those paymasters who have an agenda, like if you don't comply with it, you get booted out, right?
Yeah. But
same with the corporate world,
what
same with the
realise?
NHS.
I mean, you've gone from sort of establishment figure, very successful within the establishment, to a sort of a big critic of the establishment. What changed? Was it COVID, or was it before then?
I would say that the huge transformation for me was unplugging and uninstalling from the programs, and a big part of that was going to Peru and working with the shamans and taking ayahuasca. And because when you are in the false matrix and when you're operating all of those programs which have been embedded through education and through society,
means like the way
programs
that we live.
Of compliance,
right?
Programs of compliance. You know, like you have to work hard to be successful. You can't make money doing what you love. All of these programs, money doesn't grow on trees. You know, if I do that, I'll lose my job. I mean, basically fear-based programs, because the false matrix is built from fear. So when you start unplugging from fear, and actually I'm not frightened anymore. I'm not frightened because, and this is what the Love Party stands for: liberation, opportunity, vitality, empowerment. So when people are empowered and they've liberated themselves from the programs, they're empowered to be creative, to be able to create and manifest revenue streams or land or whatever it is, using intention and focus of energy, creative energy. Then you liberate yourself from the control system, and that's incredibly empowering for people.
Yeah.
So I'm all about empowering people, and I'm about pattern interrupting. So even just talking to you, he's doing a poo. Even just talking to you, maybe you might think a little bit differently about how, I don't know, you write this article.
Yeah.
And give you the benefit of the doubt that you're not going to do a hatchet job.
I saw you said once that one of your greatest heroes was Margaret Thatcher.
I mean, at that time, it was there was a great kind of female power thing coming through, wasn't there? Because there were all these. I mean, I was about 16, 17.
Yeah.
Just opening to my kind of corporate world, and you had people like Anita Roddick of Body Shop, and Debbie Moore of Pineapple Oil. She was the first woman to float her company, wasn't she? I remember her ringing the bell on the stock exchange floor, and people like Sophie Merman of Sock Shop. So it was a real era of women stepping into their sort of female power, and then you had obviously Margaret Thatcher and Diana. But I realise now, looking back, even that was a massive trap, that whole superwoman trap that I swallowed hook, line and sinker, which is like, it's the most important thing is to, like, you know, run a business or do a career, and that it's secondary to be a mother. And I realise,
girl boss femininity sort
of thing. I realise now, having done a lot of medicine work and a lot of healing work, I realise now that the role of the mother is the most important role in society. And I mean, I have 5 sons, and I'm lucky that I had some very good nannies and supporters and babysitters and people around me, because they're all pretty cool dudes, and they've turned out okay. But
Yeah, what do they think of everything?
they're completely awake. I mean, basically they own it, in the sense of I hold my share as trustee for my 5 sons.
I see.
So for me, this is the greatest legacy that I could give to them.
And they're completely awake to...
They're completely awake to everything. I mean, they listen to people like Joe Rogan, Aubrey Marcus, all of these amazing, you know, those cool dudes.
Podcasters.
Yeah, who just really opening the minds of the young people, because no one watches mainstream media anymore. The kids.
No, they don't.
They're watching all these alternative people. So they're questioning everything. I mean, my son was he was absolutely convinced in flat Earth. And I'm like, but what about astrology? And so we had this interesting discussion, but, you know, it's good to question.
Yeah, does he still think does he believe in a flat Earth theory?
He does believe in flat Earth, although I do believe that flat Earth... Kobe, come on, no, we're not going that way. No, we're not going that way today. No, we're going this way.
He knows what he wants.
Oh, yes, come on. Walk to heel. Come on. Good boy. That's it. Yeah. Come on. Okay.
So, yeah, you don't believe in flat Earth because you just say...
Well, I think the whole thing's an illusion, actually. Well, I know the whole thing's an illusion because I've experienced enough ayahuasca and journeyed beyond the veil to the Pure Lands to realise that this is a false matrix. But I do feel that there is a strong possibility that flat Earth was a theory created, well, some say by the CIA, but so it's so easy, isn't it, to say, oh, you're a flat earther. Oh, you must be a flat earther. You believe in this, that. You believe in aliens. You believe in David Icke. You believe in reptilian. You believe that the Queen is a lizard or whatever. So it's so easy to dismiss truth speakers by trying to attach. I mean, just look at the headlines which have been used on me: anti-vax, conspiracy theorist, zealot. I mean, it's just like I've been called everything from a witch through to a, I don't know, people thinking that, you know, I'm going to build some crazy skyscraper on this dale because I'm just a capitalist. So people are desperately wanting to pigeonhole
I was speaking
and
to
label.
Some of the villagers.
Hold on, is yours gone? Oh, still going, yeah.
And the biggest thing they were concerned about was, what's going to happen to the dale? Because they don't feel like they know. I mean, if you could characterise it, is anything going to happen? Well,
it's beautiful. Why do they think what do they think is going to happen to the dale?
They're just worried about it and they don't know what will happen. They just,
you see, this is the thing. This is fear for you.
Exactly, as well.
This is fear for you, isn't it? This is fear, false matrix. People being in fear. Their mind going, oh, what's going to happen? Oh, she's a dragon. She's going to build a skyscraper. Oh, she's a witch. They're going to do hippie festivals there. It's kind of like it's all in the mind. And why not have a conversation, you know?
Yeah. So what is going to happen? What would you say to them?
Well, why does anything have to happen? Why does anything have to happen?
So you don't think... So nothing will happen? Nothing substantive?
Well, we've done a few bits of maintenance.
Yeah.
We've done some amazing things. And we cleared the limestone reservoir. That was an incredible find. No one in the village knew that existed.
Yeah, I saw the photo of it, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's like 200 or 300 years old.
Yeah.
So, is that damaging the dale or is that lovingly enhancing it? You know, the steps. The steps are controversial. It's like, oh, you can't put steps in there. Well, hold on a minute. That was a slippery mud.
Is that the one we walked down? Or
those little steps. That was a slippery, muddy slope that we literally, when we first walked here, we slithered down it and we had to hold on to the bush as like a handrail.
Yeah.
And it was treacherous, absolutely treacherous. So one of our community, he just took it upon himself. just to come here with a few tools
Yeah.
and over course of a few weekends. And he just put those steps in, and he just did it actually completely out of his heart
just to make it more accessible.
as a way to improve it. And also a lot of our community are actually quite old and they've got walking problems.
How big's the community, would you say? Like how many people would come?
Well, there's a certain number of members, but then some of those members are more than one person. Do you know what I mean? So like if a husband and wife is one member, but that's two people.
And what is membership? Membership
of our community, our Crestbrookdale Estate Private Members Association.
Right.
Members of that, but some of the members are kind of like husband and wife, or mother and daughter, or like, for example, me and my 5 sons. You know, is that 6 people or is that one member?
How many people then?
So it's
Or how many?
So it's I mean, basically there were 22 people who energised it, 22 individuals who energised it. So that was in 2022. So we kind of felt that was a symbolic number, and
Do you think we could go see the teepee? That'd be really helpful.
Oh right, you want to go round again?
Is that okay? We can come straight back after that if you need to go, but Kobe!
Yeah,
a little rebel.
Kobe, come on, let's go to the teepee. Let's go to the teepee. Come on, you get extra walks.
So another thing one of the villagers mentioned was the Light newspaper.
The Light.
The sort of like a anti-lockdown newspaper, they say.
Oh, you mean the Truth newspaper that Darren runs?
Yeah, I think it's called the Light, isn't it? With the lighthouse.
Yeah, the Light.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you distribute that? Someone said in Bakewell.
Not really. No, I have got some copies.
Right.
People are always giving me copies, but I wouldn't say I'm a distributor. No.
Right. And then they think that newspaper is extremely anti-Semitic. What would you say to
that? That is the classic, isn't it?
Yeah.
They use the same thing with Andrew Bridgen, MP. Oh, anti-Semitic. When he said about the greatest crime against humanity since the Holocaust, but he was actually repeating what some Israeli doctors had actually stated.
Yeah.
So this anti-Semitic thing. Kobe, come on. We're going to the teepee now. You get extra bonus walks. Come on. Anti-Semitic. What does that even mean?
I guess it means anti-Jewish bigotry or hatred.
Well, I can tell you from my personal point of view, I am completely interfaith, and which is another thing that I've been accused of by, she's a Christian, or the Buddhist, and but that's pagan. It's just like this is one thing that doing ayahuasca teaches you, is that all of these religions are all facets of the same diamond, this infinite energy, God, what you might want to call it. You know, people are just looking at it from different aspects, but it's all part of the same universal energy. Mm-hmm. And so I'm completely interfaith, embracing all cultures, all beings, and I would like to feel that I do not have to carry those prejudices, and I know that the Light paper is just intent on bringing the truth to the people.
Right.
And I know the BBC tried to do a hatchet job on Darren, and as they have done on me and UK Column, because it's clear that people are starting to see us as a threat. Otherwise, why would you be trying to destroy us if you didn't feel threatened? I'm talking you as in mainstream media. Yeah. If you didn't feel threatened by us, you would just ignore us. But actually, every time the mainstream starts to attack the freedom movement, it just energizes it.
Yeah. What's the bunting?
It's not bunting.
Sorry.
It's Tibetan prayer flags.
Oh right.
So we had we had a water blessing with this, honouring the spring.
Yeah.
You know, like well dressings in the whole of the Peak District. They do well dressings in all the villages. So we did a little well dressing blessing back in July. So we just thought, when the village did theirs, they had like Union Jack bunting or black, red, white, and blue all across the streets. And so we thought, well, we'll do our own bunting. So I just got some Tibetan prayer flags to hang across the forest. Yeah.
So would you say you're very political?
I say I'm apolitical. I am a champion of truth, freedom, liberation, empowerment, and I'm speaking out on behalf of the people. I really do believe that.
Yeah. Because it struck me, just going through your stuff, that there are some key political themes, such as entrepreneurialism, care for small businesses, a suspicion about open borders, a suspicion about big corporates, a desire to sort of roll back technology. They're all quite political ideas, aren't they?
Well, I suppose if you want to... This is the thing, isn't it? Always wanting to label things. I'm trying to find a tissue, actually. Have you got a tissue?
I do.
Oh, that would be handy.
Get it out.
Yeah, I mean, this is... Lynn always said that we're a non-political political party. That's what she always said about the Love Party. And I think the fact that we're not a party anymore, we're a movement, because we decided to sort of ditch the Electoral Commission and just do our own thing.
Yeah.
And really just stand as a wave of independent candidates.
Have you had much support?
Yeah, I'd say we have a good amount of support. But the thing about the freedom movement is it's already established.
Yeah, so is the freedom movement, is it American, British? How big is that? I've not heard of that before.
Well, I'd say it probably is global in terms of all over the world people are speaking out.
Yeah.
And all over the world communities are gathering. I mean, Stand in the Parks, they started in... Kobe, come through. Kobe, come on. Kobe, come through.
Come on.
Good boy. He's getting a bit tired now and it's hot. The Stand in the Park movement, that started in Australia actually, when they had lockdown, and they just decided to meet in the parks because they weren't allowed to meet in their homes.
Is the freedom movement just like an umbrella name for all of these organisations, or is it an actual organisation itself? Is it quite well structured? Or?
Well, it's a movement, so it's basically all of those little community groups and gatherings and freedom hubs and Stand in the Parks, which are springing up all over the world and have already got momentum, and they are everywhere. And all of the speakers who've got momentum, who've got followings. I mean, I'm just a small part of that, but people like Neil Oliver and Richard Vobes and David Icke, and then you've got all of these alternative platforms like Iconic TV and UK Column and the Light paper. So there's a whole alternative media forming. So all it really takes, and I think this is what the establishment is most worried about, is that all it would take is someone just to join up all those dots, and suddenly you've got a global network of millions, if not billions of people who are starting to question the system.
Isn't part of the idea that there's a apocalypse coming?
Kobe! Kobe! Where's he gone? Did he go past us?
I don't think so.
Kobe! Kobe! Oh dear. Sometimes he goes past and... well, you just kind of know where we are. Apocalypse. So... that's a whole other kettle of fish, isn't it? So apocalypse, what it truly means, do you know what it truly means?
No.
In Greek, it means basically lifting of the veil.
Right.
So, but of course, Hollywood and Revelation have kind of cast this doomsday apocalypse scenario of being 4 horsemen of the apocalypse and Armageddon kind of thing. So the two ideas have been conflated, and basically it's all been done. I believe it's all been done just to create fear, huge amounts of fear, like a fear, oh, Russia's going to bomb everyone, or there's going to be a nuclear war, and
so what's your
blah blah blah
conception of the apocalypse then?
Well, my perception of what is or what I'm seeing happening is that there's a huge awakening of consciousness happening across the planet, partly helped by plant medicines coming out of the jungles. Come on then, don't get lost. You won't get lost.
Yeah.
Right, so this is the path which that's caused so much fuss. So we created a tiny little path through the grass to get to the teepee, because otherwise people would just have to choose their own path, and it makes sense to have a path, right, that people can follow.
It's a pretty small path.
Yeah, it's just nonsensical that this is a problem, this path.
Isn't it just though that given the protected nature of the area, you're just not allowed to create a new path? You just reject that as a concept?
Well, the point is, if you don't have a path, then people trample anywhere because they take any old route.
Yeah.
So before this path, at least people will now follow a path, whereas surely it's much more damaged if people just were wandering up anywhere and trampling anything.
The alternative would people just don't walk on this bit and they just stick to the original path.
Well, this is, this is common access land.
Yeah.
So if people are going to walk this land, it kind of makes sense for people to, if they want to come down here, which I suspect very few people actually ever did, especially because there were cows grazing on this field. Oh, look, you see, he's worn out and he's cooling himself off. It seems to make sense to have a path. Yeah, so this is the little teepee. It's a pretty cool design, obviously.
It's massive inside, isn't it?
They are a bit like a TARDIS.
Yeah.
We have had 33 people in here. But yeah, inside. So the way it's designed is cold air's coming from up here and it creates a draw through the roof.
Yeah, right.
So the smoke goes up. So you sit around it and it's quite nice in here.
So how often do you guys meet here?
Well, whenever if we're on the land and maybe if it's raining, we might come in here. Otherwise we might just sit out on the grass. Depends what we're doing, really.
Yeah.
But it's quite handy to have a space, you know. But it's quite tucked away down here.
It is.
It's not really hurting anyone, is it? I mean,
no.
And actually children love the teepee. People, they, sort of marvel at it. It's a Marmite response. People either they hate it or they love it,
What about, didn't you want to grow crops when you first bought the land?
Well, it seemed to us it would make sense, and maybe to plant a few things like some, a red currant bush or two, or maybe some squash or pumpkins, or, Kobe. But actually, one of the things that I've really learnt about this year is foraging, because this land is already just incredibly rich with natural food, and a lot of people are discovering just how much there's already here. I mean, it's quite incredible. Just things like nettles, dandelions, nuts. Wild garlic.
Right.
It depends on the season.
I love wild garlic.
Yeah. So actually, it's abundant with nature already.
Right. There's no plan for that then, for more cultivation of the land.
Well, you see, this is the thing. It's kind of like, I can imagine in a sort of old paradigm, false matrix mindset, one could have some nightmare scenario of combine harvesters or like rows of carrots growing or something insane like that. I mean, so I think a lot of this fear is rooted in old paradigm thinking and mindsets about what is farming.
Right.
The idea that farming is like an acre of beetroot, you know,
right.
or like a monocrop. Whereas that is not necessarily the way of nature at all, is it?
No. What's your conception of farming?
Well, to me, it's much more. I wouldn't even go to use that word farming. I would say about being in tune with nature. So that you can honour the land and be in tune with the land. And so it's learning to reconnect with nature, because these things aren't taught in school, are they?
No.
So you're not taught how to grow vegetables, or even to recognise what a vegetable is or what's edible. I mean, would you be able to walk this land and know what's edible? Or what mushrooms you could eat or not eat? And wouldn't that be a useful skill for our children to know? How much abundance there already is in the land, you know?
Yeah.
And what's poisonous and what's not poisonous. There might be some climbers up there.
Amazing rock formation, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's the eastern side of the Dale, which is a nature reserve.
Okay.
This is all farmland. So originally this had cows on it.
Right.
And so it was churned to mud. So it's actually rewilded massively since we took over, because the cows everything was just, this was just a whole bog here.
Yeah, I think I've seen photos on the website.
Yeah,
yeah.
it was. So actually, if anything, the land is massively rewilded. It's much easier and safer to walk, because quite often the cows, if the whole herd was standing on this path, you had to turn back.
Get through, yeah.
You couldn't walk the land.
Because I know with quite a few of these, you know, you're talking about the freedom movement of people buying land. Lots of the thinking is, I've read, that you go there or you prepare it for when the apocalypse comes.
Oh, so where did you read that? Which tabloid?
No, I thought it was some pro from the links from my research on your website and stuff. What is it?
Well, I think it's probably some projection from some tabloid newspaper report. So yeah, personally I believe that there is an alternative future reality which is manifesting, which is about a new golden era, an era of awakened consciousness and enlightenment, where people start to wake up from the program and start to liberate themselves and unhook from this corporate nightmare digital everything future which is coming down the line.
Yeah.
And so basically all that needs to be done is to create an alternative possibility, and that's what the whole of the freedom movement is now focused on. Independent businesses, farming cooperatives, natural healing, so that you don't have to submit yourself into the NHS protocols, which are horrifying if you've actually ever got hold of any and read them. And it's the NHS protocols which have killed a lot of people, and there's many people in the NHS too frightened to speak out about what's going on right now.
And what are the protocols? What are those?
Well, tick box protocols. So rather than, I guess in the olden days, if you were an experienced kind of sister or matron or doctor, you would assess a patient, you'd have years of wisdom, you'd assess a patient and you'd tune in to what was wrong with them and help them. Whereas now it's young staff, NHS tick box protocols. Is it this or this? Tick, oh right, now do this or this. Oh, if it's this, prescribe that. If it's this, do that. Oh, if it's this, put them on a ventilator. So they've taken the heart and soul out of decision making and they've turned it into tick box protocols, which is a very mechanistic way of dealing with ill health. Because if you think of how your grandma used to, when you were sick when you were young, and your grandma, like, Gran, I'm not feeling well, she'd feel your head and she'd say, you know, what have you eaten? What have you been eating? Where does it hurt?
Yeah.
And it would be geared towards intuitive health and diagnosis and natural healing, right?
Yeah.
Whereas now we have just got an NHS which is basically run by Big Pharma, unfortunately, and it's not about healing at all. It's about masking symptoms and medicating people.
You know, earlier you were saying that when I brought up the thing you said about Thatcher, you basically said, "Oh, I was so into the programmes then."
Well, yeah.
Do you think there's any connection between your belief about freedom now and your desire not to be controlled by big corporations and that sort of Thatcherite belief in freedom and small government and entrepreneurs? I mean, can you see a connection there?
Well, I think that there was a spark, wasn't there, back in the Thatcher era of enterprise, but I think it was more about people chasing money. So it did give rise to this huge consumer boom, everyone rushing to buy their own houses, get mortgaged up to the hilt, and then finding themselves in this trap. So, you know, here we are, over 40 years on, and sort of living with the consequences of that, aren't we? But I think people are questioning and unplugging and questioning how we live, wanting to tune back in with nature, wanting to unhook from the system, from debt slavery, from being part of the corporate world, wanting to run their own businesses, be independent, be free. That's unhooking from this slavery.
Can't you think?
Come on.
Everything that you've just said, can't you think that without what other people would... Oh, here he goes.
Kobe! Oh, he wants water, that's why. He's thirsty. He knows there's springs there.
Yeah.
It's fresh. If animals drink from a stream, you know that it's clean.
Can't you think everything that you've just said about freedom and enterprise and not getting into lots of debt, without all of the conspiracy theories, as some people would call them, about COVID and about the corporations and about the Great Reset? Or do you see them as intrinsically linked? Like they come together in this modern day?
So can you just repeat that question again?
I'm basically saying, is it essential to believe in the conspiracy theories, as some would term them, about the Great Reset and COVID, to also believe the things about small government and enterprise and entrepreneurialism? Like, do you look at those right-wing politicians who do believe in those things, like some members of the Conservative Party, for instance, and go, actually, you don't fully get it. You can never actually believe in freedom unless you also believe that the Davos is trying to control the world.
Well, I am just wary of this big corporate trap which is being set for us, with corporations having huge amounts of power, because of course governments cannot take away people's rights, but corporations can, because corporations can put it in their terms and conditions, and that's how Google and Facebook have got around freedom of speech. Yeah. So governments can't stop you from speaking out, but a corporation can, so YouTube can, and Facebook can. And so, of course, that's what's now happened in the freedom movement. We're finding new platforms like Telegram and the Light newspaper and UK Column. We're finding new outlets. Odyssey is a great example of platforms where you can speak your truth and not be censored. So, personally, the way I'm seeing the freedom movement evolving, it's evolving into an alternative future reality to the one that the World Economic Forum has got planned for us. And so that's good. So you can choose. If you want to be in that world of total digital control, if you're happy to have a digital ID and have all your jabs and have central bank digital currencies and be told what you can spend your money on and go where you're told you can and can't go, if you want to be in that world, fine. It's your choice. Kobe, stop. Whereas, hold on, let me complete. Whereas, if you decide, actually, I would prefer not to, then at least you have a choice. And I think that is all that the freedom movement is about, is there's so many people now providing an alternative future reality, an alternative choice so that when the time comes, if you don't want to go down that route of digital control everything, you have got an option. And that is what is being built right now.
So you mentioned earlier that sort of key turning point, when the penny dropped, was when you went to Peru. When was that?
2015. It was my first pilgrimage. I've done 4 pilgrimages. The first 3 were to the Andes, and the 4th was to the jungle. So yeah, that was.
What does one do on a pilgrimage there?
So you trek. Well, there's sightseeing, and we went to Machu Picchu and places. But then eventually you trek up into the mountains.
Yeah.
And you do ayahuasca. The first ceremony we did was kind of next to a lagoon, actually, on the top of at the foot of the mountain, actually. It wasn't like climbing the rock face, but it was quite incredible. Just beautiful, being up high in the Andes.
Yeah. And what made you go on that pilgrimage? Did you see it online? Like, how did you get
into that? A friend of mine ran them. So, and she'd been running them for years.
Right.
And I'm like, I have to go and experience it. So, yeah, it was amazing. I think it was 10 days or 14 days.
Right, great.
Yeah, but it is life-changing doing something like that and working with the tribal people and seeing how indigenous people live, in the mountains where they are caretakers of the land. So my view on land is very Peruvian. We're the caretakers of this land. We're not here to rape and pillage land. I mean, that is one of the things that's happening in South America. People are buying land and raising the woodland to the ground, and the habitat of the orangutans, and planting palm oil forests for profit. And shamanism is all about really tuning into nature and being part of, and realizing we're part of nature, and so it's reintegrating. So when you start to reintegrate with nature and start being with nature and restoring your connection with it, it's very heart-opening and liberating. Yeah.
How come you saw me in the end? Because you were sceptical at first when I first emailed you.
Well, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, but I mean, my trust is often betrayed. I am quite a trusting person, but I can just keep plugging away. I mean, when Jane, what was her name, from the Daily Mail, because I'd agreed very specifically on the basis she wrote a truthful article, and she said, "Oh, don't worry." And after I read it, I just sent her a text and I just said, "Thank you for reminding me why I got out of the corporate world. Thank you for reminding me how glad I am not to be taking that corporate dollar, writing bullshit, because you don't want to lose your job, I mean, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I do feel that a lot of corporations are very oppressive now, like you can't speak out, otherwise you get sacked. Or if you don't comply, if you don't have the jab.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I'm not part of a corporation, that I don't have to dance to any tune of that kind of external authority where you're oppressed because you're in fear of
Have you
retribution.
Retired? Are you still working? Or are you retired?
I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a creator. I've just finished writing my book. That's just at the publishers now. It's called Liberation.
Yeah, what is that about? I saw that on your
Liberation.
On your site.
Liberation, liberating yourself from the false matrix.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting book because I actually downloaded it in Peru after the medicine journey. Like, it came through in a block of thought form of the whole design, the name, all the content. So basically it can be read from both ends. So one end is black and white, and the other end is kind of rainbow coloured, and you read from both ends into the centre. Yeah.
Copy.
I've just sent it to the publishers.
Okay, I'll have to wait.
Well, in the sense of I've sent the manuscript to the publishers for printing.
For anything yet.
So I've got. Well, I mean, I'm not going to release it until it's ready for release, obviously, but it will come out, I think, probably in September.
Okay.
September, October. Yeah. Anyway, are we complete?
I think so. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Are you going to write something fair and balanced?
Yeah, always do.
Good.
I always do. Yeah, well, thank you very much. Fascinating.